Maruti Swift Dzire has been one of the hottest cars in the entry-level saloon category in the Indian market, but now its superiority is under threat by another Japanese saloon, and this is the Etios from Toyota. It was showcased in January 2010 at the Auto Expo, and it's in showrooms near you now. But how will things fare between these two? Well, that's what we're about to find out. Take a look.
When it comes to looks, the Dzire isn't much of a benchmark. The funky styling of the Swift adapts to a three-box shape with a great deal of awkwardness. The Etios, well, it's not much of a looker either. It feels quite square and boxy. Toyota has tried its best to give the Etios the most charisma possible by keeping the practical aspects in focus. So the Etios is graced with lots of touches of chrome, like on the door handles and on the boot lid. It also gets curved lines to soften the boxiness. As a result, though it will be compared to the Logan in terms of look, it just ends up feeling a lot more palatable, especially when seen up close. But what's the Etios like on the inside? The main talking point here are the functionally placed aircon vents, which are meant to cool the rear seats. And the giant speedometer is there for everyone to see.
As expected, on the inside, the Etios does feel nice, roomy and comfortable. It has a very good seating position for the driver, and when it comes to equipment, there's no real skimping either. You have your music system, you have a nice steering wheel which feels great to hold, has a nice flat bottom to it for that sporty edge. Along with that, these aircon vents, they are pretty funky too. To switch them off, you just need to roll them shut like that. On the other hand, the plastics feel a little bit low rent, not as high quality as expected. The switches again have that slight plasticky feel to them. The dash, the center instrument cluster looks good, but again, when you look at the fuel gauge, you feel it's like an afterthought. And if you look at the wipers, you realize there's only one blade to do all the work.
The plastics quality though is a really big letdown. The red highlights on the seats and on the gear knob don't make things any more attractive. Other than that, the front seats are spacious and supportive. The back seat though is better still. There is no shortage of space any which way here. The knee room is excellent. After all, the Etios' wheelbase is about 160mm longer than the Dzire's, and the boot space, it's got nearly 600 liters of storage.
The Etios may have a wider back seat with more knee room in it, but the Swift Dzire seats feel that little bit better because they're more contoured, not flat like the ones in the Etios.
Space aside, the Dzire manages to score points thanks to its interior quality.
The Swift Dzire clearly doesn't have the space that the Etios has, but where it's several notches above is in terms of the interior fit finish, the general air that it has. The plastics feel a lot better, it looks better designed. On the whole, you feel it's a more upmarket car than the Etios.
Well, that just goes to show how hard Maruti Suzuki must work to get their cars feeling just right at the right price. But can the Dzire hold on to that advantage out on the road? Both cars come with 4-cylinder petrol motors, but there's a big difference in how they go about their business. The Dzire uses a rev-happy motor that pumps out 84 bhp from a measly 1200cc. The Etios in comparison comes with a much bigger 1.5-litre motor that pumps out a not so impressive 90 bhp. The Etios, however, has a couple of tricks up its sleeve.
The Etios is significantly lighter than the Swift Dzire. It has more power, which means it will be more peppy. So it is quite nice to drive. Along with that, the shorter gearing means you can stay in third gear at low speeds in the city and just run around without bothering to make too many gear changes.
So the Etios, with its 13.4 kg of torque churned out at 3000 rpm, ends up feeling more peppy than the Swift Dzire, which makes a lower 11.5 kg of torque at a much higher 4,500 rpm. But the Etios can't hold on to the advantage at higher speed.
The thing though is that when you're out on the highway and you're cruising at higher triple-digit speeds, you'll find that the engine feels a little buzzy.
The Swift Desire's motor though is one you can't ignore. In comparison, the Swift's motor feels a lot more refined and is more at home out on the highway. And when it comes to comfort, both cars use a similar setup. There's a McPherson strut at the front and torsion beams at the rear.
The Etios and the Swift Desire, both of them have slightly stiff, low-speed rides. So when you're crawling around in the city, you'll end up bobbing around in them. But where the Etios scores is at higher speed. The suspension just smoothens out, leaves you comfortable, while in the Swift, you're still flattering around and moving around a little bit.
So the Etios with its longer wheelbase has better space and is also more comfortable once you get going. The Etios shows remarkable confidence in travelling at higher speeds. But does it have the edge when it comes to carving up corners?
Now, while the Etios' steering wheel does look sporty, it doesn't quite live up to that image. When you start chucking it around corners, you'll find the steering wheel doesn't give you the kind of turning that you want. Initially, it's very dead and suddenly it will turn in. So not very consistent. But the good thing is that the suspension manages to give you good amount of grip and stability at high speed, which is a big plus.
On the more practical side of things, the Etios doesn't do too badly. The light steering is city friendly and the turning circle is tight too. Though the steering needs many a turn to wriggle out of a tight spot. The smaller Swift Desire has a nippy feel to it that makes it feel a lot more fun to chuck it around corners.
When it comes to enthusiastic driving, it's the Swift Desire that's just a little bit more appealing. The steering has more weight, it's more direct, and of course there's that gem of a motor that just loves to be revved.
And push the Desire a bit and you can get the tail to step out quite easily. But most people will hardly do anything half as exciting in their cars. And on the practical side of things, Desire acquits itself as a family car quite well. But which one is the winner here? In spec-to-spec comparison is the Etios' G variant and the Swift Desire's VXI variant that can be compared on features and in terms of price. At the upper end, you can compare the Etios' V variant with the Swift Desire's ZXI variant in terms of price and features. However, the Swift Desire does have an additional Climatronic air conditioning system along with steering wheel mounted audio controls. While the Climatronic air conditioning system is not on offer on the Etios, you could get the steering mounted audio controls on the top end VX variant of the Etios.
So, if you're in the market for a first family saloon car, which one of these two should you go for? Well, in terms of looks, there's not much separating these two. The Swift just feels a little more palatable, it's easier on the eye. The Etios feels awkward. And when you step inside the Swift, well, it goes a little further ahead by feeling just that more upmarket. The plastics feel better, it has a nice look to it. The Etios does feel a little tacky, a little cheap on the inside. So, in terms of equipment, both are pretty well loaded. But the Etios claws back a lot of ground on the inside with its space. It's got cavernous interiors on the inside. And of course, you've got that 1.5 litre 90 bhp motor that is lightweight, which means you have nippy performance. You have class-leading fuel efficiency. And of course, it is a very comfortable car to be in. The K12 motor in the Swift, it's no slouch. It's very refined and it is great out on the highway. But when you have to pick your family car on which you go out for weekends with lots of luggage in the boot, with your entire family in town, then, of the two, it would have to be the Toyota Etios.